Okay, so picking up right where we left off, we are now going to add the catapult. It will be almost identical to the way the archer worked, with one exception, and that is with the arrow, it shot the arrow straight along the x-axis. We're going to use gravity for the catapult, and so what's going to happen, we're going to give velocity to the projectile, the rock. It's going to both be moving horizontally and vertically, and gravity will do the work for us to bring it back down to the castle. So that's going to be the only functional difference, will be how the projectile itself works. So first, let's go to our catapult object, and we already have our box collider. Needs to be set as a trigger, and then we need a script. So right click, create C#, and we'll call this cat button. We'll click on our object again and take our cat button. And what we'll do, open that up. And by the way, you can move these tabs around. So like for instance, if you want all the buttons next to each other, you can do like this. Because as I said, the functionality is very similar. So basically it's two things. You need to create a variable to make the button aware of the object that you want to instantiate, and then you just instantiate it. So get rid of this, get rid of this. So public transform, and we'll call this cat obj, again using the naming convention that obj represents that it's an object that's being referred to. And then we go back to this. And again, the copy and pasting is partly out of laziness and partly out of reinforcing the fact that what I'm doing is not new functionality. Once you come up with that functionality, it's just rinse and repeat. We just have to make a tweak here. So it's not the archer object, it's the cat object. And again, there's 3 arguments. What is being instantiated, where it's being instantiated, and the rotation. And like we said, when you instantiate the object, you want to use the prefabs. You want to use the prefab's position and rotation. So we can save that. Now it won't do anything because there is no catapult yet. So let's start with that. Or should I say, let's continue with that. See how it says cat object? None. So we take our catapult. Just like the archer and the soldier, we need to add the physics 2D box collider so collisions can be detected, and set it to a trigger. And then physics 2D rigid body so we can give it velocity, and we do not want there to be gravity. And now that we have our object, actually let's quickly throw a script on it. So create C#, and we'll call this catcon to control the catapult. We'll click on our catapult. We'll put the catcon script on it. And again, my apologies if I'm going through this kind of quickly. Like I said, I'm trying to reinforce the fact that it's really the same thing as the archer. It's not new functionality. And so we'll put this here. We'll take our catapult. Well, let's rename it so it doesn't have the 1 after it. We'll put the catapult there. We can delete the original from the scene. We click on our catapult button. We can take our catapult object and put it there. Now, there's nothing in that script yet, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's open up the catcon script. Again, you can get rid of the remark statements now that we know what they do. And we'll just give it velocity to begin with. So get component, rigid body, 2D, dot velocity equals new vector 2, because it's only x and y. we'll have this move slower. And again, the actual values you put in, 100% game balance, you decide what works for you. But generally speaking, you'd expect this to move slower. You'll also probably fire slower, but do big hits. Whatever the game balance feels right for you. And then the other thing that we'll have to still will have this stop. So if you call with the archer, we had this section that looked for a trigger. So let's put the basic in, but then we'll come back because I just want to make sure that this part is working. So again, copy and pasting out of laziness and to reinforce that we already did this and we don't need to cover it again. The tag we're going to make in a few seconds will be called cat stop. And then let's just remark that out for the second. We will need that shortly. I just want to test this much of the functionality. So the button is aware of the catapult. The catapult has a script. It just doesn't stop. Okay, so for our catapult prefab, tag, add tag, it will use the naming convention stop, like I said, so cat stop. And let's run this to see if we're good so far. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't create the new point. Sorry about that. So we'll copy the stop point. We'll move it over because obviously it's a catapult, so it shouldn't have to travel as far along the ground because it's shooting from a range. And cat stop. So sorry about that. So I created the tag. I just didn't do anything with it. Make sure I didn't mess up that one. Nope, that's fine. And right, okay. I just want to make sure I didn't add the tag to the catapult there. So let's try this again. Perfect, it stops. And then what we're going to do is we're going to trigger the attack. So let's go ahead and create the rock because we're about to have to instantiate it. So in between the last tutorial and this one, I did draw this. Again, it was just drawn in an external paint program, nothing special. It needs to get the same physics components. So it needs Collider 2D to detect a collision with the castle. And then again, physics 2D, and we need the rigid body 2D, but this time we will leave the gravity scale because like I said, we're going to shoot the rock into the air along the X and Y axis, and then gravity will do the rest for us. If we find it's too cumbersome, we can always remove gravity and just manually do it, but if we can get a more natural arc, it's a little nice detail to add. So let's do right click, create C# script. We'll call this rock con. We'll add the rock con to the rock, and at that point we can turn this into a prefab just by dragging and dropping it into the asset area, deleting the original. So we can now make a reference to this. So we go back to so we have our catcon script. We can unremark this now because now we're going to actually add that routine. So IE numerator, we need to use that exact verbiage. And this is yield return new. And for some reason, it doesn't like those. Interesting. Let's go to our archer and let's just copy and paste it. I'm probably doing something really silly. Yep, it's accepting it now. You can see it's in blue. Might have just been an editor issue. Okay, so it's a catapult, so you're probably going to want it to shoot much slower, but we'll leave that for now. We will... Okay, so we haven't created the variable yet for the rock, so let's do that now. So just as we had to make the archer aware of the arrow, we have to make the catapult aware of the rock. So public transform, rock obj, again using that naming convention. So rock obj. And again, the rationale is that we want the object to be instantiated at the position of the catapult, but we're using the rock's own rotation. Although in this case, really doesn't matter that much. And then this just cycles back to the beginning. So now we just need to link the rock object. So we have our catapult prefab. There's the rock object variable. We put the rock object there. So now it'll instantiate it. So let's take a look at, we haven't actually opened RockCon, have we? Okay. So we get rid of the remark statements as always. And then we have to give it different velocity than what we normally do. This is going to be a complete wild guess. So get component, rigid body 2D. And again, this time it's going to have velocity along two axes. So X we will make be, say, 3. And Y will be, say, also 3. Gravity is already applied, so it should simply do that for us, because with the rock object, we gave it this rigid body, and we left the gravity in place. So if I haven't forgotten anything, I don't think I linked the rock yet. Actually, I did. So I think this should work. Now, the rock might throw wild. That we're going to have to tweak. Okay, so not even close to being right. So we can try... There's also something else you can do. You can modify the gravity. But let's see if we can get this right with a coupled. And if this takes a long time, I'll just splice it, because obviously all I'm doing is just manipulating these two. Like I said, it's a complete guesswork. Okay, that's a lot closer. Let's see, let's do like 9 and 6. And by the way, you probably noticed the rock is instantiating out of the middle. You can always modify the horizontal location. That's just about right. All right, so we won't splice this. This is good enough. Okay, so that should make it hit, but now we have to do like the arrow. We need this to detect the collision. So if we go to our arrow con, same thing. So we're looking for a collision with a 2D trigger. We're looking for it to be the enemy castle. Now this would be different, because presumably it's going to do much more damage, like say 15. Again, complete game balance. It's not up to me to say exactly what it should be. In this case, I'm not sure if we have to do the delay or not because the collider is different at the top, higher up, but it's there if you want to use it. So it is doing damage. Looks like we can get rid of that, but what you can do, you can just remark it out in case you need it again. Because again, this is all just kind of rudimentary functionality. You haven't fine-tuned it yet. You might find out that you want to have that there, or you want it there, but of a smaller amount, whatever. And I think that's about it for this tutorial. I was going to start adding in the generating of a resource because usually with a game like this, a resource, whether it's money or whatever, is generated over time, and then each unit has a different cost. But I think I'll save that for the next video because that's like distinct functionality. And we also are going to get into additional aspects of the user interface. So we will start that in the next video. I hope this has been helpful. And if you have any requests, just let me know. Leave it in the comments and say, can I add a certain functionality to this? Okay, enjoy your day.